Okay, so we'll just jump straight in to talk about Jonny Feathers, the rock and roll pigeon. Um, so the show is described as heartwarming and humorous, and it celebrates the power of friendship, unity, and helping others. But
Yeah.
without giving anything away, what can you tell us about the show and what can the audience expect?
So it's the day of Jonny Feathers' big show in Camden. He's got a big gig, and he's lost his guitar.
Mhm.
So he has to retrace his steps from the night before, which involves retracing all his old haunts around Camden, and finding his little animal friends on the way. At each point as he goes, his guitar's not necessarily at that bit, but he finds some good friends who play their own instruments as well, and he learns a little bit. At the start, it's very much all about him. He sees it as all I need is me and my guitar. And as he goes on, he realizes that there's a lot of joy to be had by playing with friends, by how you can help them, how they can help you as well, teaming up, and the fun you can have together.
Nice. So what inspired this? Because you wrote it, right? So what was your
Yeah,
inspiration?
yeah.
How did this come about for you?
I mean, in my teenage years, I was in bands playing around Camden, so it's a kind of world I know quite well. And then in my early 20s, my little brother was born, and I wanted to sort of come up with a story that was kind of different to most of the stuff that was out there. There was there's some great books out there. We'd read Spot the Dog and
Mhm.
lots of classic type things. I was like, I want something with just a little bit more edge.
Mhm.
Nothing wild, nothing, nothing that's only appropriate for adults. You want something that's really friendly and accessible for a children's audience, but that also has that just slightly grimier world than what, say, Spot the Dog
Mhm.
inhabits. So we've got that kind of character, but he's just a little bit grimier. Jonny Feathers loves to drink puddle water and eat
Nice.
steak and
That
that
is
sort of stuff,
cool.
things.
Nice. I love that. So not only do you write, you produce, compose, and were also a lyricist on the show. Have you always been interested in all of these different elements? And is this something you hope to continue doing moving forward?
Yeah, I get a lot of hats on this
Yeah.
one. I think that, like, when it's first on at Park, I saw the what's it, the program, and you think it sounds like I'm some kind of puppeteer, like offering every element of the show. But it's some of it's kind of inevitable in terms of writing the show. Um, it's got songs, it's got music, it's the songs need words, that sort of thing. So those things kind of just fell into place as part of writing the show. But I guess I came into theatre writing in a slightly unusual way, in that I was in bands first. So music was kind of my first interest. I played guitar and sang, and play piano badly if necessary. So would kind of write songs and lyrics, but also love performing. Aside from performing music, also liked theatre work as well. So started writing plays, but I've always had that kind of in the back of my locker, as it were. And I was in a musical comedy double act for quite a number of years as well. So I'm sort of experienced in performing and writing music as well. But it's the first time I've been able to combine those things in a children's kind of element.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the producing side mainly has been sort of through necessity over the years, really. Where from aside from the work I do with Rock Pigeon producing Jonny Feathers, I've run a company that make more sort of hard hitting work for adult audiences, Bruce Sky Productions. That I've always done stuff on a very small budget, which tends to mean I'll be, again, wearing lots of hats, producing and pulling everything together from there. So I've kind of fallen into producing more through necessity rather than it being something that I was kind of necessarily deliberately trying to do. But it's just it's quite fun though as well, actually. When it's like, a lot of elements of it aren't. There's hard work to it as well, but there is something quite nice about having a say in all the different elements that put a production together.
Nice, because this is like aimed at children, I guess. But
Yeah.
do you find yourself sort of implementing adult humor or something that, because you have to be careful, but how do you go about making it sort of enjoyable for adults as well? Is there stuff that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's finding a bit of a compromise on that. And Matt Bugatti, the director, has been fantastic in terms of that. He's got a lot of experience in producing family shows, theatre for young audiences. And I think probably coming into it, I had a little bit too much in terms of things that were a little bit on the adult side, bits that my thing was kind of like, oh, that's okay because the kids won't know,
Yeah.
won't understand that, and the adults will like it. But his thing was very much like, well, then the kids will feel left out. It's not nice to have moments where we've all probably been in situations like that wherever we are, where someone makes a bit of an in joke or whatever, and you feel like there's a party you're not invited to almost. And so we wanted to make sure that we didn't have that sort of element to it, that the bits that the adults will get, they'll maybe have a wider understanding of, but it's always something that also that the kids are invited into as well.
Nice.
So there's not innuendos, there's not
nice.
References to sort of grown-up activities in a way that kids would feel, oh, I don't know what that is. All the adults are laughing, and I'm sat here trying to sort of look into them as to what's funny or need it sort of explaining. So I think what we ended up with is a really good balance in terms of there's a lot in there which adults will still really appreciate and find funny and enjoy, in terms of they'll understand elements of things like gentrification's in there, sort of talk about stuff like that, which adults will understand in a different way because they'll have seen the way that areas are changed over a period of time by the way money's introduced. But kids will also understand it on just the basic level of, oh, there was an animal living in this area wanting to do one thing, and people have tried to move them on for whatever reason. So it's never done in a way that leaves anyone out.
Yeah, that's good.
So you mentioned that you've worked on shows for kids as well as adults. What do you find more difficult working on? Because I can imagine writing for children comes with its own challenges.
Yeah, it is probably a bigger challenge writing for kids, but it's so much more rewarding. I think, not that I don't enjoy writing for adult audiences, but you write stuff for adults, and they will sit through it by and large, and there'll be maybe jokes in there where you go, oh, no one laughed at that bit, so that hasn't worked for them. But essentially, you don't get that instant kind of reaction. Whereas with kids stuff, if they're not enjoying it, they'll just stop looking at the stage. They'll wander off. They'll start playing with their brother or sister or mate or whatever. They'll just do something else. Where adults tend to not do that. We're sort of trained to. I'm in a theatre. I'll sit down. I'll look at the stage. At the end, I'll clap.
Yeah.
Kids will just do what they want to do. So you've got to work harder. I've not been for as many drafts as a script on anything I've written before, as I have with Jonny Feathers. We'd go for it again and again and again, and we're still working it right coming into sort of production week. Whereas I have been more used to just going, well, that's the script, that's how it is. But we were kind of really pushed to make sure it was something that the script, the music, the puppetry, the lights, the sound, everything in it, we really, really pushed to make sure that it was as enjoyable as possible, as entertaining as possible, that we wouldn't be allowing any moments where you go, oh, kids are going to switch off at this point. They're going to just be doing whatever else kids want to kind of do. There's a lot of other stuff in the theatre, even if it's just playing with a chair or going into your mum's bag and like pulling stuff out or whatever. There's other things to entertain you. So it's our job to keep them focused. So yeah, in short, writing for kids is a lot more challenging because there's more parameters in the way, but the rewards are just huge.
Yeah, I feel like as well with with kids, they're so honest. So as
Mm.
challenging as it is, if you've got people you can trial it with and you can see them getting bored, at least you know they're being so honest. That's because they're not engaged. Whereas adults will probably just, you know, we feel like we're too proud, we're not gonna sit and say anything. So I guess
Absolutely.
that does help that kids are so brutally honest.
Yeah. It's a totally different reaction because it's something that adult audiences will tend to they've planned to come and see your show. Like if you've got something, like Soho Theatre on an evening, probably that day people have gone to work or whatever, but they've booked tickets and they go, right, tonight I'm seeing that show, and they've done it for a reason. They've either heard something good about it, read reviews, someone's told them to come and see it. They're looking forward to it in some kind of way. And with kids, there isn't that. They're taken to it. They may be looking forward to it or heard a little bit about it. So it's almost more similar in a way. Kids are more similar to an Edinburgh audience to some extent. In Edinburgh, you'll get people who haven't made that sort of commitment about their day. They may be seeing 5 or 6 things that day. They're just maybe gone, oh, I was having a drink in the courtyard and now I'm watching this, and will have a more kind of a less responsive response, or maybe more up for being kind of blatantly not in the moment, not engaging. And I think that's where kids are, but just really honestly, really naturally, they'll just if they like it, bang, they're there with it. But also if they've decided they don't like it for whatever reason, they'll not be there. I mean, I was sat behind one performance. There was a little boy who'd I could tell from what he talked to his mum that he'd obviously been talking about the show and had liked the idea of rock and roll and music and stuff. But then he got in, he went, there won't be guitars, will there, Mum? And his mum was like, yeah, there's going to be guitars. And he was suddenly like, oh, I'm scared of guitars. And he sort of go, oh, I don't know what to.
I went to well, I was growing up a big McFly fan, and to like Tom Fletcher is a big with the kids audiences. He does like the kids books, and he did the Christmasaurus, the theatre show, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to appeal to me, but for some reason I feel like I need to go, and I did, and I was like, you know what, there's so many kids around, but I enjoy it just as much. So I feel like adults, you know, there's secret pleasures in watching kids shows. There's like wholesome, there's like, you know, so I mean, yeah, I hope that everyone enjoys it so much.
Absolutely, but because the thing is I've got a 3-year-old, and so I watch a lot of kids stuff, and there's things that you can really enjoy, the both of you, you know, and then there's things that you just go, as an adult, you just go, oh, this is awful. And so that's another element of the responsibility in terms of writing it. You want obviously the kids to be absolutely engaged in something that is brilliant for them, but I'm telling my friends who have got kids to come and see this, and I don't want them coming to me going, well, the little ones liked it, but now I find that this element of it really annoying, that the tunes are just really annoying, or there's no kind of story to it or whatever. I want something where you go as an adult, you'd go in and go, I really enjoy this as well. But the main aim is obviously to entertain the little ones, because that's who it's for. But
gosh, you mentioned how you rewrote the script many times. What was that whole process like from end to end? Like, how long did that take you?
I mean, probably a year in terms of by the time it came on August, it may be even longer. I mean, certainly because it's one where the story's been with me sort of 20 odd years, and then getting it down into a script, I started in terms of what became this show about a year, 18 months ago. And then we did research and development on it in January for a week, where I was worked pretty hard in terms of there's things that you just have to throw away, which you kind of sometimes go, oh, I really want that bit in. And then you have to decide what are the bits that are absolutely integral to it, and what are the bits that you've just decided you kind of want in there just because there's a joke or something that you quite like, but it's not actually supporting the play and holding it up. So yeah, I'd say at least a year of quite substantial rewrites in that time as well. Like, I've often on things maybe gone for a few drafts, but they're largely tweaks. There'll be things like you go, oh, I'm gonna move this scene to here, or I cut this, or you kind of merge a character or something. But this was quite, it was still quite structural. I think going into rehearsals, there was elements of going, okay, does this character need to occur at all, or if we are going to meet them, should this actually be at the very end? And then you've got to, it's quite hard work, because you sort of go, oh, the bits around the middle, you can sometimes go, oh, that's okay, we can move that around, it'll still be okay. But things like an ending, you're sort of going, no, if I don't get the ending right, it's like if you serve up a bad pudding. You know what I mean? You can have a lovely dinner, but if you had a lovely pudding, a horrible pudding at the end, that's what you're going to go out with a taste of. So
great analogy. Like, never thought of that before, but honestly, I'm going to start using that. So you know what someone once said to me. No, that is very true. You know what I find interesting, when we were talking about the actual plot of the story, you said about how we're in Camden, we've lost the guitar, you know, something we love to talk about, and we always bring up in our podcast episodes, we have a podcast, is about tropes within stories and within films and TV and theatre. And Tati loves the struggling artist trope. So when I was like the premise for this, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna love that. Like, she loves a struggling artist. So what are your sort of favorite tropes that you like, I mean, personally consuming, whether that's in your writing or in TV or theatre or music, whatever it is?
That's interesting, actually, and it's not something I've ever really thought about, tropes, because I think although characters probably fit into those molds if I stepped away from it, I think if I ever wrote with a trope in mind, they would kind of lose a bit of their integrity as to who they are. I think I go a little bit more with let them have voices in my head, as much as that sounds a little bit out there, but I'll just kind of I try to just let characters do what they want to do. But I guess there will always be the kind of the struggling artist will always make an impression in most of my work, because that's sort of how I see myself, I guess. Certainly,
life imitates art. Is that what it is? Or art imitates life? Something like that. Yeah, that is true.
It's interesting though, because obviously from what you've explained, friendship, unity, those are really strong themes throughout, and like working collaboratively with other people. And from just you saying that you've been wearing a lot of hats in this process, how have you found like working with other people and like trying to bring other people into the team, and has that helped as time has gone, you know, on in the process?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been interesting, because we've had a much bigger team on this than anything I've worked on previously, where I've been writing with Mary Erskine, who's fantastic, and co-wrote the music and the lyrics with me. And without her input, the songs would not be anything like the standard that they are within the show. Like, if left to my own devices, I'd essentially write kind of indie stuff, like sort of Britpop, really. It's still my kind of thing. And by having Mary on there, it's just widened out so much, because she's got so much talent as a musician, as a songwriter, also as a producer as well. Even though you know, she doesn't get a production credit in terms of the music on there, because it's sort of performed live. But as we were creating the songs, it felt more like producing a lot of what she was doing, where she would take samples, bits of sound, move stuff around, create to create it together. So that's been absolutely fantastic, and a privilege to work with her. Again, I'll mention Matt Bugatti, the director, who his vision, his experience of working on shows for young audiences just meant that I knew that I was in safe hands, and that if he was really pushing me not to do a certain thing, I'd have to trust him, because I've seen the work that he's produced and the standard that he creates. So, you know, okay, if he's saying we need to steer away from something, or an idea I've got for it isn't right for the age group, then I'll trust him on that. So it's been so helpful, because otherwise I would you'd be in potentially a situation of the Emperor's New Clothes, where I'd be having to sort of just go out there and go, right, well, this is my creation, and hope I'm not stood without any clothes in the middle of
there's like that barrier between really being protective of handing over the torch, but also seeing how actually you're going to benefit from being in these collaborative positions. So yeah, I agree. Like ever since things we've done with other people, it's such an eye-opening experience, because it's like I never even thought of it from that perspective, or like I would have just left that, or could have gone all wrong. So yeah, really, really good. How can we plug the show? How do you want to close off with where we can watch it, and sort of hoping people will come watch? How can we pitch it?
Well, we are at the Riverside Studios in Hammersmith from December 7th, and we run through to January the 8th. So yeah, get on the. Hopefully, if you could put this out with a link, whatever, to the show, that'd be much appreciated.
We'll put it all
And just really, really looking forward to sharing it. It was great to have it on this summer, and very excited for it to be coming back on at Christmas. I think Christmas can be such a special time for young audiences. I remember my sort of first trips as a kid, when you do the school trips to see stuff all together, and having that experience, and the responsibility as well, because a lot of kids, it might be the first thing they see, and if they don't like it, they might not like going to the theatre. So you have to make sure it's good. So I I know that it's a really enjoyable experience. I've seen the reaction of the kids to it, and so I feel like I can hand that on, and yeah, get yourself to the Riverside Studios from December 7th.
We'll put everything on the screen. We'll make sure we link everything. And thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. If you enjoyed, definitely make sure to check out the other interviews we have on this channel.
And make sure you check out our podcast as seen on our other channel. Everything will be linked in the description below.